Good evening, and welcome. On behalf of NAHSC Houston Chapter and our Professional Development Committee, I'm your chair. I'm the chair of Professional Development, Venicia Harris. Thank you for joining tonight's webinar. The title is Owning the Process, Clarity, Confidence, and Career Momentum. We're excited to welcome Latrisse Griffiths. She's a career development consultant at Houston Methodist, a colleague of mine. We work alongside each other, and she is fantastic. So I'm excited to bring her on. She's a dedicated strategist, helping professionals own their growth with clarity and purpose. She has a dual master's degree in education and organizational development, and currently pursuing her doctorate. She brings deep expertise in workforce development, equity, and career empowerment. She leads with heart, strategy, and a passion for helping others turn uncertainty into momentum. So please join me in welcoming my colleague, my friend, my mentor, my sensei, Latrice. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Benicia. That was absolutely beautiful. And, try not to tear up a little bit here. So thank you all for joining me today. I want us to be a little bit interactive. So if you're commuting or anything like that, I understand, I get it. But if you're stationary, you're, by a computer or anything, let's communicate with one another. So use the chat. If I say something that resonates, let's get those thumbs up going. We have the reaction button at the bottom of your Zoom. It looks like a heart. So if you happen to see that, everybody just drop in, give me a reaction. How are you feeling right now? Are we excited? Are we, tired? It is Tuesday. So let me know how you're feeling out there. Again, as we go along, if you have questions, anything, this is meant to be a two-way street. I'm not here to talk at you. We are here to learn together. So I am going to start by sharing my screen and making sure that you all can see everything. So let's go there. And Benicia, I'm just going to double check you can see everything, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, perfect. So let's get started. So as Venicia said, I'm Latrisse Griffiths. I have a master's in ed, master's in organizational development and leadership. And it's that OD master's that really got me going with, growing people and how they fit within the organization. So that's really where that came in. Throughout this day, I'm going to weave in some personal story, a little bit of anecdote, and then we'll go from there. So again, questions, pop them in. If you have, just reactions on something that I say or something one of your colleagues shares, put it out there. Let's all, we're going to ride on this wave together. Okay. So let's get started. A few years ago, I was hanging out in a little city called Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I was in a role where I was super competent, right? By most measures, I excelled. But it was becoming a distant memory, with COVID being all of 5 years ago. It's only 5 years old, right? So, but during that time, I was in this role in medical education. I was doing what I was meant to do, right? I was in a leadership role, had a little bit of influence within the organization, all of those things that we are told we're supposed to seek and find. But I was finding myself deeply unfulfilled. So, I was checking the boxes. I said yes when I was supposed to, got a pretty decent amount of praise, right? But something for me needed to change. So, sold the house in Philly, got on a plane a day after Christmas, moved to Houston in an attempt to not only get a fresh start, but escape the snow. And while in that transition, I did something that, was comfortable. And we'll talk about comfort as well. I stayed with my current employer, right? Again, we're in COVID. I think I moved here in 2020, the end of 2020. So I was able to work remotely. And I stayed with them for another 2.5 years, right? Again, thinking that this physical change would help, but mentally and career wise, I was still stuck. It wasn't quite burnout. It was essentially boredom, right? I wasn't challenged anymore. I wasn't aligned. I wasn't clear on why I was there. And it was that kind of realization that had, started my brain, just what's happening here? What are we doing? What are we doing? I had given my career away to comfort. I wasn't owning it anymore. And just like the house that I had when I first moved to Houston, I was just renting it. So that realization is what changed everything. So, what I'm going to do, I'm going to drop a question in the chat, and I am hoping that this works because we were trying to do polls and it wasn't working. So, A, B, or C, there we go. How are you currently feeling about your career path, right? Are you clear and confident, uncertain but hopeful? Are you in transition? Are you feeling stuck? Go ahead and drop in the chat, just the letter that coincides with where you feel in your current career. Okay, uncertain but hopeful, transition, yes. Uncertain, okay, I like that, Beverly. Combination, transition, great. Okay. All right. Thank you all for joining in. So, that transition period, right? That's something that we don't often get to talk about. So, we'll discuss that a little bit as well as that uncertainty. What's next? What am I doing here? What are we doing? So, one thing that we're not going to do is play it safe, right? We're not going to play it safe anymore. So, throughout today, we are going to talk as a community. So I am so glad to be here with you all. You all are a group of professionals that are committed to leadership and equity and excellence in healthcare. And as we get to that point, you'll find that that is also now my new purpose. So again, my name is Latrisse Griffiths, and we are going to talk about owning your career process, not just passively participating in it, showing in, clocking out, but truly owning it and making sure that the path to success that you have isn't handed to you. You've earned it because I think we all have that little bit of need to earn what we have, right? We like the idea of it being given to us, but I think we actually want to earn our place in the world. So that ownership is going to be shaped by clarity. It'll be fueled by your confidence and sustained through your career momentum. So, my role here today is not to sell you a formula or a program. I am here to walk with you through some of that messiness, right? The real world version of growth, and ask you all some tough questions along the way that might help you shape and change the way you see your career. So, if you're ready, let me get a thumbs up, a little bit of happiness going out there in the chat. And all right, Vidisha, I love that. I love the handshake. Perfect. All right. So let's go. So again, we're going to come back to my story again. There wasn't a dramatic breakdown, right? Like I said, I'm just sitting there, I'm doing my job, I'm getting the things, right? There was no urgent push. It was just this quiet moment where I just kind of sitting there and I just was no longer proud of the direction that my career was heading in. I was successful again, but I just felt disconnected from the purpose. And it was simply because I had yet to define what that purpose was. I wasn't burned out. I was just completely uninspired. And I'm going to, I hope we don't have too many physicians in here, but if you are, I'm sure you remember baby physician time. Working with med students, it's a struggle to see students who are given an opportunity to be well respected, well deserved, and, just accolades abundance, just poured upon them, because they are physicians and they were phoning it in. So, that kind of led to that disengagement, right? You're like, you have this phenomenal opportunity to be amazing, and you're just not trying. It did lead to a couple of folks being on my list of, they can't, perform surgery on me. But at the end of the day, you want people who want to be there, not because what mom, dad, or, society is telling you. So, what we want to try to do is get to a point where the clarity in your role is defined, right? You want to actually chase something that makes sense. You don't want to run after, just the win. We're running around in that circle in a track. Eventually, you need a destination. So, it became this point where, the answers are not immediate. They are shaped and, they are influenced daily by the different people that I'm interacting with. But it was these pointed questions. And of course, what do I want to do? Not necessarily what do I want to do, but what do I want that impact to be, right? So when I do something, What is it that I'm doing? Not task wise, but how is it influencing others? How am I helping others? And in that same space, who do I want to be in that process? Right. So those are some of the questions that you're going to start to ask yourself as well. So, with the support of my therapist, some career friends, it kind of gave me back a little bit of power and quieted the voice in the back of my head, right? And it helped me to form the clarity that I needed to start to move forward, right? I wanted to make an impact. I wanted to make a difference, whether a large one or a small one. There was a spell where I thought I was a little delayed in my career because I wasn't Martin Luther King status yet, right? Don't necessarily want to be that anymore, but I do want to make sure that I am making an impact, not just adding a line to my resume. Okay. So your clarity isn't going to be found, it's going to be created. We wait for this clarity like it's for FedEx, right? Your clarity is going to be a craft. You build it by asking the right questions. And I want you all to kind of just take a moment to hear this question, right? This is one that really resonated with me. What do I want my impact to be in this field? Not what job title, but what kind of difference are you meant to make in your career, whether it's in your current role or organization or elsewhere down the line? For me, the answer to that question was about breaking down barriers, especially for those who never saw themselves reflected in healthcare leadership. And again, that kind of was formulated by watching students who were kind of handed an opportunity, shove it off to the side, right? So, how do we get people who would excel in those spaces if only given a chance? So, right now, what I would like for you to do is take a moment and think about what you want your impact to be. Okay. We're going to take about 30 seconds. And at the end of those 30 seconds, if one or two of you would just come off of mute and share, that would be phenomenal. I want to start this conversation. So, again, what do you want your impact to be? Okay, friends. Anyone want to share, in that moment of reflection, was there anything that came to you? You can either type it in chat or come off mute. What is something that you want your impact to be in your current career?
I wanted to let you guys know that although this is being recorded, that does not mean it's going to be posted. And if you choose not to share your responses or have it shared, if
Very
you
fair.
decide to, feel free to just let me know. So it's an open space, although we are recording. So
That is
be
fair.
shy, don't be shy. And even if you do come off of camera, your faces won't be shared either.
Very fair. Give you guys 2 more seconds to maybe break out of your shell before we move on. All right. Take some time this evening, right, to think about one or two sentences that describes the impact that you want to leave behind. Not the title, but your difference. Okay. I want to teach students how to grow, but you also want to learn how to get out of your comfort zone. Okay, wonderful. And I won't share names. We can see who's doing that in the chat just for confidentiality purposes. But again, that's a really great point, right? Where we're in this space where we are teaching others, but we're also in our learning stance on a day-to-day basis as well. So it's challenging because you are in a position of influence, but then, sometimes we're on the back of our shoulder, second guessing ourselves. And I don't want to say you need to teach yourself how to grow. And, I'm looking at your title after your name here, and I think you have an opportunity there to not necessarily teach yourself how to grow, but to be open to growing, right? I think we're just afraid sometimes to step, and we'll get there, but sometimes those smaller steps are what it takes for us to move forward. And I'm setting up to do a presentation shortly on utilizing artificial intelligence, our chat GPTs, co-pilots, all that good stuff, on how to let that help guide you through your career journey. So ask chat GPT, right? What is it that, what are some of the next steps that I could take based on my skill set? Or what are some skills that I could stand to improve to make me better in my current role? So sometimes it starts little, and a lot of people, regardless of your role, we need to use Excel or some type of application that we're not all that great at. How can you learn something else to improve your current role? And then what can you do with that new skill in your current role? So it's really incremental, but that is a great space. Unable, build bridges across industries, phenomenal. Ideas that create space for innovation and help vulnerable communities thrive in their health inside and outside of the hospital. That is absolutely beautiful. And that is one of those spaces, right, where we want to bridge the gap. So again, going back a little bit and just giving people an opportunity. I think what a lot of folks are missing is just an opportunity, that chance for someone to take on them, whether it's in terms of maintaining their health or giving them actual opportunities in terms of their career and jobs. So that is absolutely beautiful. So yes, building bridges is, I think, something that we could all stand to do a little bit of. Okay. Thank you all for sharing. I appreciate it. So that paused up a little bit. So, one of the things that we tend to come across is career fog, right? Our clarity gets cloudy when we try to outrun reflection. We don't take the time to answer those questions, that I'm throwing out to you all now. So, think about some of the other things that may have happened in your career, right? What have you said yes to that you wish you would have questioned? Or maybe you just should have sat with it a little bit longer, right? So, career fog can show up as too many options in a role. There's not enough time to reflect on things. This is a really big one, resentment. And I'm going to come back to that one. Fear of the wrong choice. And I feel like that kind of leans itself into a little bit of imposter syndrome. And then sometimes we're just looking for resume growth, right? Versus actually aligning our life with a purpose and what it is that we're trying to do. But let's go back to resentment. Um, I find that in my career conversations, they often start with someone didn't let me. And because someone didn't give you an opportunity, let you present at the leader meeting, right? It's because of that person that you are not where you're supposed to be. And while there is a tiny modicum of truth there, most of the time there are opportunities for us to step out and around, right? There are leaders who don't want to see their employees grow simply because it's inconvenient for them. They're going to have to find someone to replace you and all of that. That's not your problem, that's their problem. If your leader is not giving you the opportunities that you need to succeed, this is your opportunity to step out of your comfort zone, right? Find a mentor who will push you in different paths, who will expose you to different opportunities above and beyond what you're currently doing. We hear a lot about working our wage, right? And I don't want to do more than I'm being paid for. And I subscribe, I get it. But there is a point where your career growth is going to be determined by what it is that you do. And most of that growth also happens not only in what you're doing, but how you're behaving when you don't think anyone's looking. Those are the things that are actually going to move your career forward. So, again, it's not always about, and I hate saying this out loud, and I also hate saying it on recording, it's not always about the bottom line and the paycheck, right? This is about building your professional reputation so that you can be seen as that person, as that reliable resource of information, that knowledge piece, right? So, how do you step out of this career fog, right? We start chasing titles, certs, degrees. Do these things even align with what it is that we are trying to do? We're chasing all these things down, but we haven't decided or determined if they're worth it for adding to that resume line, right? Most of the time, these types of activities are just keeping us busy. They're not necessarily leading us towards our goal. We think they are, but most of the time it's busy work. And you have to ask yourself, why? Why are you keeping busy? And it's usually avoidance, right? We're almost avoiding our success and we're giving ourselves an excuse. Well, I can't move forward because I don't have this master's. Here I am, can't move forward because I don't have this doctorate, right? No, you can. It's just we have to step away and push it all the way over. No imposter syndrome because busy does not always mean intentional. So you have to stop and think about what it is that you're doing and how it's going to align with your future. So here's another question for you all. You can comment in a chat, but I'm going to move forward. If you don't comment, keep it in the back of your mind. Do some journaling tonight. Again, give yourself time to reflect, right? We have no time to reflect. Give yourself some time to reflect here. As you cut through your fog, do you find your actions leading to building your career on purpose, or are you just building your resume? And if you're building your resume, what can you do to shift that so that it can lead to building your career on purpose? Let that sit with you for a little bit. Take some time this evening to journal on it. There will be a few questions, just to kind of stimulate thought as you go through your career. Okay. So we're going to come back a little bit to my career story here. So I was chosen to lead this major workforce development initiative, new to the organization, new to the department. I don't think I checked half the boxes, if not any of them. And let's be honest, I just told you all I just moved to Houston in 2020. So I don't even know the city very well, right? There were so many other people who were more qualified than me, or were they? Right? No, they weren't. Others in the organization had even questioned whether or not I should be put into this position. And basically, for all the reasons that I just listed, she's new, she doesn't know anyone, da 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 da. I had discovered my purpose. I had clarity in what it was that I wanted to do. And not only had I done the internal work, I put forth the effort to put the external work, demonstrate that I was willing to not only learn what I needed to make this program successful, but then also just take the confidence that was given to me and take it to a new level. I got that initiative handed to me because I was able to demonstrate, again, my purpose, my vision with confidence and clarity. The detractors are on my side now. They're even more convinced. We're out there raising more money now. And this was all of 2 months ago, right? But had I not been the final choice, had they been allowed to continue to question and, those senior, folks, what do we call it, stagnant in their views, had they been allowed to run the course, I was ready to move forward anyway with confidence and pride because I knew that I had put forth the best product and that anything coming after what put out there was not going to cut the mustard. I would be picked again anyway. It's okay to be confident. It is okay to be confident. There is a myth that being confident means being the loudest person in the room. As you all can tell, I'm not loud. I'm going to be a little fun, but I'm not loud. Real confidence is quiet. It's staying loyal to your values, even when the room isn't ready for you yet, even when the room does not reward you yet. You know what you are capable of and what it is that you bring to the table. So it's applying for the role that you may not be fully qualified for because your purpose is going to be louder than your fear. If your purpose is not louder than your fear today, we are going to work to shift that and make those changes. So let's think a little bit. And again, if you're willing to share, let's do it. Share a moment when you were bold, even without full certainty. What did you learn in that moment? Was there a moment when you were given an opportunity, you stood up for yourself, you know, cheered something on, but you weren't fully certain? What did you learn about yourself in that moment?
I'll give them a moment to respond, but I definitely have an answer for that.
Go for it. That'll give people time to type.
Okay. For me, I remember this was 2019. I had years experience and they started me off at level one. And I was like, this doesn't make sense. I came in as a temporary employee. However, I definitely want to be paid what I deserve. Um, and I'm kind of I don't want to name drop on the hospital because it was they gave me my first opportunity in Houston, so I definitely value that. But I was like, this is not going to work. I mean, I enjoyed my boss. I enjoyed what I was doing. I was really close to home. So there was a lot of things working in my favor. But I decided to leave healthcare temporarily. And that was very scary because it was all I had ever done. So I ended up working in education nonprofit. Leading educators, there was an opportunity. I applied and I got it. And it was scary at first, but I ended up having a way better opportunity. I increased my salary by like 30%. and
Beautiful.
and I ended up working remote right before the pandemic happened. So it was a scary moment. It was a bold move, but I trusted myself to know that like, hey, like at the time I was working two jobs, working part-time, I was bartending, I was working myself crazy. But I encourage anyone that may feel like they're nervous, whether that's changing industries or just changing the type of roles that you're working. It's like go after it. And when I moved into that role, I said, look, I'm not going to accept anything less than this number, and that's what I was paid. So, and I've been
Absolutely.
growing ever since. So that's my take.
Yes. And, stepping outside of industry is always scary. So I applaud you for taking that step. There was even a spell where I went from education to manufacturing and to bridal sales, right? Like really there's not always a direct path. And it was fun. It was fun for the time. I needed something completely different. And it was just enough to give me a reset. So yeah, that fear of trying something new, right? It can be there. And to Joan's point, you do learn best when you allow yourself to make mistakes, right? You're not perfect all the time. And you will get noticed. This is great point. You will get noticed when you take that chance. You will get noticed when you step outside of yourself. And the other thing that comes along with that is knowledge of other industries, right? I use my bridal sales experience now to empathize with people. And it's so random, but if you think about the young lady who can't purchase something because her mom said no, because she just doesn't like it, because it's not in the 80s fashion that she's used to, and all of these things, and just being with this person and giving them an opportunity to find their voice, to stand up to someone. And that just, I find that in mentorship and other career conversations, just giving people an opportunity to find their voice. So again, you don't have to be perfect. You are allowed to make mistakes. And it's in those lessons and in those falls that we have where the lessons and the learning happens. So, to the earlier question, teach yourself how to grow, make a few mistakes, because where those mistakes are is where the opportunity lies for you to continue to grow. Um, let's see here. Absolutely. Public speaking is one of those opportunities that I think we all look for until it's given to us. And they're like, I want to, I want to, I want to. And you're like, you do it. And you're like, I wasn't ready for that for real. I just wanted to say it out loud. But having those opportunities, public speaking is one of those things that even the most natural person is very nervous doing, each and every day, right? So, having those opportunities, and again, leaning into learning. So, congratulations, practice, prayer, reflection, practice a little bit more, and pray a whole lot, right? You will be fine. And the only person who's listening to those mistakes is you.
You.
No one else will hear your missteps unless they're like blatant. And even then, you just make a little fun of yourself and you move on, right? So, again, we're going back to learning from mistakes. So, these are all great examples. Thank you all for sharing. So, again, go back, think even deeper, right? Share a moment to yourself, to, a colleague, to a mentor. When were you bold with even without full certainty? And what did you learn? Okay. Let's talk a little bit about some of these confidence blockers, right? And again, we talked a little bit about imposter syndrome. I think that's the biggest one. So we won't dwell on that one too much, right? But sometimes what hold us back isn't a lack of ability, it's subtle habits that quietly, strip away our confidence over researching, over apologizing, and over justifying. So let's look a little bit at over researching. It looks like research. I'm just gathering information. I'm reading this post. I want to understand a little bit more about this company. I'm going to go on LinkedIn today, tomorrow, every day for the next 3 weeks. But rarely are you actually making any actions. Are you taking any steps forward? It feels productive, right? Because got this big word of research in there. I'm just researching, I'm understanding, I'm learning. So it can feel productive, but it's actually a form of procrastination. It's dressed up as preparation. It's a symptom of fear of not knowing enough or not being ready enough. So again, we're going back to this public speaking piece, right? Um, I'm not ready. So let me research, let me study a little bit more. You don't need 100% of the information to make a confident move. Progress can happen when you're willing to take the next step, even without full certainty. Okay. So the goal that you are trying to achieve through your research is informed action, not perfect preparation. So learn enough to take your next big step because you will learn along the way. You will not know everything. And that is also why getting that next degree doesn't automatically qualify you for the promotion, right? You've learned, but you still need that experience. You need those opportunities to fall down. This is my favorite, over apologizing. And I am going to be a little bit, what is it? Politically incorrect here. A lot of times, females tend to fall into this one more often than not. Do you find yourself leading with sorry or uncertainty? I'm sorry to bother you, but I apologize. I'm not familiar with this platform. Da 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 da. Right? Sorry for being late. Are you devaluing your strengths with disclaimers that minimize your role or your impact? I do it. Right? So over apologizing chips away at your authority. You know what you're talking about. You know exactly what you're talking about. Don't apologize for being the smartest person in the room. It's okay. All right. So you don't want to sound unsure. And even when you are, like when you say, I'm sorry, but uh, it gives you this, you take away your own, I'm losing it right now, but you take that certainty, that value, that knowledge, and you devalue it to make someone else feel better about themselves. It's not about someone else, it's about you. So, and 90% of the time, what you're apologizing for doesn't even need an apology. What it's actually asking for is ownership, right? So, use your emojis, throw something in the chat here. How many of you have said in an email, sorry for the late reply, or sorry I'm late going to a meeting a minute or two? Yes, no, you could do a couple thumbs up. Next time, try this instead. Say thank you. Thank you for your patience. instead of, I'm not the perfect fit for that new role, right? Try, here's why I'm qualified for this position. Practice, 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 practice. I still do this, but I am trying really hard, and I encourage you all to do the same. Don't apologize for who you are and what you know, especially to make someone else feel comfortable. Okay? Practice this so that it becomes a muscle memory. Confidence is not arrogance, it is clarity. You are allowed and give yourself permission to speak from a place of knowledge and or contribution. Never ever apology. You should only apologize if you have truly harmed someone, because most of what we do in business, it's not hurting anyone. Okay? If, you know, Venetia offered me to be here today and I was running 20 minutes late, I would profusely apologize to you all because I've wasted your time, right? That's a little different. 1 to 2 minutes, we're always running 1 to 2 minutes behind because our meetings are stacked. Thank you so much for your patience. Let's get started. You've acknowledged your lateness, you've owned it, but we're moving past it. Okay? And in the same space, a little bit of what I just did, but I just wanted you to understand over justifying. It's the same thing. Over justifying is that long explanation for job changes, proving why the decision that you made was right, or over explaining your career gaps or choices that you made in a project that you're moving forward. It's often driven by a desire to preempt judgment. So much like that apology, it's the same thing here in over justification. However, what it ends up doing is it attracts more scrutiny. The more detail you give, the more things people have to pick apart. So if you're giving your explanation and we're going to talk about this yellow light and well, that's glass, and we can just say it's a yellow light. We don't have to talk about it being metal or acrylic and so on and so forth. It instigates, debate that doesn't need to happen. And then it puts you in a place to be even more uncomfortable, right? So let's not draw scrutiny to ourselves. Your story does not need a defense, it just needs direction. And if you are clear on your message, you can get there. So share your why, your story with purpose, not permission. You don't need permission to tell your story. So your clear and concise explanation will build more trust than a long-winded justification. Just remember that at the end of the day, you are the narrator of your career, not the defendant. You are the creator of your product, not the defendant. Okay? You know what you're talking about, and it's okay to be confident in that. So when you come across these confidence booster or confidence blockers, I'm sorry, it doesn't mean that you're unqualified. It actually means that you care. So when you take your time, and that care turns into overthinking, explaining, and apologizing, it ends up costing you clarity, energy, and momentum. You're talking yourself down, right? Don't tell yourself no. Don't tell yourself no. Okay. So reclaim your voice by trusting that you are who you are today and that who that person is enough. Okay. So another research, not research, reflection question for you all. Where are you asking for permission when you should be giving yourself a green light? Okay. Feel free to drop it in the chat if you like. Oops, I went way too far. There we go. Feel free to drop it in the chat if you like. Internet and social media. Listen, they will have us thinking that we are all supposed to be billionaires by the time we're 12 and all of these other things. And at the end of the day, and this, I think this went back a little bit earlier in the conversation, we can't let our lives be dictated by other people's decisions of what it is that they think we should be doing. What is your purpose? That's what you do. Let me get back over here. So we talked again about my journey throughout today's chat. And, again, I believe that my clarity would come from having all of the answers, but I learned and I continue to learn that clarity comes from making aligned decisions even when they're uncomfortable. I've shifted roles, changed industries, told you I was doing bridal sales for a while. I moved across the country. And each and every step taught me to not only trust my instincts, but to continue to move with purpose, not permission. And if I was ever feeling doubtful, that's when you tap into your village. So when you tap into your mentors and those trusted leaders. So now I can focus on growing in spaces that stretch me. Professionally, I'm leading, strategic equity centered workspace initiatives. Come on, never thought I would be here. Building sustainable pipelines into healthcare careers and creating room for voices at the table that are not often overlooked. I almost want to say are always overlooked, right? I'm not chasing the title anymore. I'm tired. I used to run track back in high school. I can't run anymore. My knees are bad. So I'm not chasing titles anymore. I'm building impact. Okay. Independently, I'm focused on individuals that are seeking to grow their career, but they need a little bit more light shown on their path. And that is the version of me that I'm becoming. She's no longer waiting to be invited. She's already at work and we're ready to make a difference. And I hope you all are too. So I hope some of this is sitting with you. It's giving you opportunities to question, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about our momentum. And it's like a ladder, but it's not the ladder that you're thinking. When we think about moving, we have to move up. We have to move up, right? It's more like a spiral. And you walk that spiral staircase, you can be climbing and climbing and climbing, but you're actually not really going anywhere, but you are still rising. Momentum is built through small strategic actions over time. Even a 15-minute coffee chat can change your career trajectory. You never know who you're talking to. You never know who's watching you. And again, most of the time, the changes that are going to happen in your career happen when you are not planning for them to happen. I didn't know anyone was watching me when this initiative came to be, but yet here we are. Okay. So I'm going to drop this question in the chat here and think about your next micro move, right? What are you going to do? What is something that you can do to influence your career, even if it's small, right? It's those tiny moves, right? Reach out to a person whose career you admire. Ask them how they made their boldest move. We call those kind of informational interviews, right? There's someone in a position that you like, go for it. Stretch roles are great. And when you and not even a stretch role. Sometimes it's an assignment, right? In your current role, something that your boss does, something that your boss's boss does. Ask to shadow, ask to support. How else can you show up for yourself and do just a little bit more than what is asked of you? Okay. All right. Reach out for the coffee chat. Listen, we all need a break. Why not get some intel while you're in there, right? C and D, reflect. Absolutely. Reflect and reset. Absolutely. If there's something else, throw it in a chat, share with us.
I would say coffee chat because that usually makes me uncomfortable and I'm noticing that there's no growth in comfort.
Exactly. Exactly. Let's do the coffee chats, right? Sit down with someone who is on a completely different side of your organization, who, someone else mentioned up here, building bridges across industries and people. How do you start building those bridges? You got to walk across it yourself. Go find someone in that industry, right, that you want to connect with and start to pick their brain, become friends. Okay. So we're going to start to close out a little bit here. So remember, progress is not always a promotion. You can continue to grow without your title changing. It can be lateral, layered, and oftentimes unseen. And that's okay. You don't need a new title to be in a new chapter. And sometimes the best momentum that you have is going to be behind the scenes, whether that's learning a new skill, joining a committee like this one, mentoring someone else, or updating your resume, right? With the confidence that it deserves. We're no longer reaching for task, right? I did this, I did this, I did this. Look at your resume and say, so what? You did this. So what? What was the impact of that thing that you did? That's how your resume story needs to be told. Okay. So think again, here are some more, reflection questions. And I'm just going to throw these out there because one of them is going to resonate with you, right? What's one step that you've been waiting to take until you felt ready? What would it look like if you did it before you were ready? One of mine, doing this doctorate thing. Oh my gosh. What was I thinking, right? I'm not ready. Still not ready. I'm 3 courses in. I'm still not ready. But at the end of it, I will be. And I am learning along the way. It is uncomfortable, it is painful, and it makes me sweat every single night when I have to turn in a homework assignment. I'll be ready. It'll be at graduation, but I will be ready come graduation.
Mhm.
Okay. It's okay if you're not ready. It's not okay to sit still. Okay. No one can own your career for you. But when you name your goals, trust your gut, and take that action, you unlock a kind of growth that no title can give you. Clarity is not just knowing what you want, it is knowing what sets you apart. When you define your difference, you stop chasing every opportunity, titles, and you start to align with those that fit yours, your values and strengths. Okay. Confidence is built through consistency, not perfection. Stay loyal to your path. It means trusting your journey, even when others don't fully understand or appreciate it yet. I'm going to share a story of one of my students. So, again, you'll see my career dance here. I was a career counselor for K 12 in a very elite private school in the Philadelphia area. Basically means I think M. Night Shyamalan's kids went to this school. Okay, so it's kind of kids are getting dropped off in Ferraris and Lamborghinis on a day-to-day basis. And this young lady got accepted to a local college, their honors program, full ride. And she went to Thanksgiving and she was very proud and shared her story with her family. And they were like, huh, I've never heard of that school before. Why aren't you going to Ivy this or Ivy that? We're paying all this money for you to Ivy. So she denied the scholarship to apply to a brand name school. And she was denied at all of the Ivies. She was also then denied admission back into the honors college. And she went to like a tier two-ish, popular enough school, but not an Ivy. And she had to pay full tuition. That honors program is harder to get into than any of those Ivies. And she lost it because her aunts and uncles didn't understand. Paying for school, lost a very, very prestigious opportunity because people who are no longer in the know didn't know. Stay loyal to your path, period. Right? And waiting until you're 100% ready is just fear in disguise. Momentum comes when you move forward with what you do know. Your clarity will catch up. It's not far behind, but don't sit still. Okay. All right. No one can own your career for you, but when you own it, you name your goals and you trust your gut and take aligned, strategic, purposeful action, you unlock the type of growth that no title or no uncle at the dining room table can give you. Okay. So, again, in your notes, reflect, feel free to share in a comment. I am committed to earning my career by. This might be a little bit of a deeper reflection, something that you want to take and converse with, a trusted, again, colleague, mentor, spouse, partner, right? What is it that you want to do? How do you want to change your career? How can you own your career today? What's different? What are you going to do differently? If you got even one idea today, act on it. I'm not going to take credit for this quote, but it felt so perfect. I'm going to give it to you now. Don't let inspiration become inertia. If I only gave you one thing today and it's sitting with you, gave you goosebumps, act on it. Okay. If you want to share your reflections, share them. You want to set up a meeting, set it up. Okay. Revisit your resume. Do the thing. Don't sit on it. Don't let this moment pass you by. I think we often do that. We hear a great talk, we read a great book, like, yes, and we forgot. And now we're off to the next thing. Write it down. Give yourself an opportunity to be there for yourself. And if no one has told you lately, your voice and your presence and your potential matter in this industry and in this world. And this world is a crazy place for us today. So please, 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 if nothing else, trust in yourself because we're struggling to trust in what's going on around us. Okay. Thank you again for your time. I appreciate you all being here with me today. And thank you for doing the work to own your process. I am more than happy to connect with any and all of you online. You can email me directly, reach out on LinkedIn. I also do career consultations individually outside of Houston Methodist. So if that's something that you're interested in, scan the QR code. Um, I am going to open the floor for questions and I am happy to answer any and all of them. But again, thank you again for your time.
Anyone have any questions, feedback, comments, reflections?
And I will say that my heart is green because despite living in Houston, I will always be a Philadelphia Eagles fan. So I apologize to any Cowboys fans out there.
Yes, this is wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
For,
Thank you all for
and
joining.
for anyone that was joining us for the first time, thank you. If you have questions about our committee or our chapter, there's always someone available. We're pretty active on LinkedIn. We're pretty active on Instagram as well. Reach out if you have questions. We are committed to empowering all of our members with these tools, these resources, connections. We want to continue to inspire you. We want to continue to inspire you to grow. So if you have questions or if you're interested in joining us, becoming a member, let us know. But thank you so much for investing in you today, investing in yourselves. Thank you for choosing what's next. I love it. I love it. I have so many gems that I'm taking away.
You know, I love to hear that.
Share your story with purpose.
Absolutely.
Being intentional. I'm gonna stop.
Hey.